All right, looks like we're recording. And guys, I am so excited to have on the program Gary Yourofsky. It seems very silly to even do an intro for Gary Yourofsky. You all know who he is. He's most famous for the greatest speech of all time. That's what it was titled on YouTube. So many people have seen that speech. He's turned so many people vegan. And Gary, kind of where I want to start, we've mentioned about this speech of yours that went so viral. A lot of people talk about how it turned so many people vegan. And I want to bring up something that I have noticed, and that's that a handful of people that I know who are some of the best animal rights activists that I know uh, are that way because of you, because of your speech. So not only did you turn a lot of people vegan, you turn a lot of people into activists. So it's a real honor to have you on the program, Gary.
I was thrilled to find out about all the people that became vegan too. Paul Bashir became a vegan activist because of me. He was vegan already, but Joey Carbstrong became vegan. Vegan Gains. Rafaela, the militant vegan, became a great activist because of me. That's what she told me. I met her in Germany last month. I believe Jamie Logan became vegan. The list is endless. I'm not bringing this up to brag, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
shocked myself because I didn't know anybody was listening besides the students in the classroom. I knew they were paying attention. I didn't realize who else was paying attention. And when I found out, and it was just recent that I found out, I was flabbergasted, man. I was in shock. I was in awe. I'm just I can't believe the effect that that speech had on everybody.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible, and it's what every activist dreams of, right? You put out this content, you hope that something's just going to strike. You hope the match is going to strike, and something goes viral, and it has the impact. We all dream of that, and so often it just doesn't happen. So, and I imagine, like you say, you even still are learning about the impact that it had. So, I'm sure it was totally unexpected to you when it started to happen, and I'm sure that kind of also changed your entire life, right?
It did, and remember, I grew up in an era. Well, let's put it this way: I grew up before the internet. I was an activist before the internet existed, so I didn't document everything that I did. In fact, out of the 2,660 lectures, I think there's only 10 or 15 recorded, and that was the first one that was put out for the public to see. So that was 2010. I was lecturing full time 2002. It took 8 years to put the speech out, and I didn't even do it. I was so focused on the classroom presentations. There was a student in Georgia Tech contacted me a few days before the lecture, Nathan Black. Nathan Black deserves a lot of credit, by the way. He sends me an email and he says, "Hey Gary, can I
Shout out,
come and film
Nathan.
your yeah, can I come film your talk in a couple days in Professor Klein's class?" I said, "Yeah, I don't give a shit." So he shows up. He wants to mic me up, by the way. I'm so opposed to technology. I was still opposed to the internet at that time. I said, "No, you're not putting a fucking mic on me." And I'm like Pavarotti. I'm like Rob Halford from Judas Priest. I don't need a microphone. So that mic was not that there was no microphone. That was a big lecture hall, 180 students, and that's the speech that went viral. No lights, no microphone, no nothing. I said, "Just stand to the side and record me." Thank goodness he did. And by the way, that was also before YouTube allowed long videos online. So the first
Wow.
one that was released, it was in 5 or 6 parts. You could only release 10 or 12-minute videos back then. But I was in my prime. I got to tell you, if you look back, if I could look back and analyze my activist career, I was in my prime. And
Hmm.
that's why I think that speech was so powerful. That was years of trying to comprise the perfect way to explain our message of animal liberation, of exposing animal exploitation. And I'm so glad that was recorded. And here's what's weird: when I retired, as most people know, at the end of 2014, I really forgot what I said in that speech. In fact, I forgot most of the things that I had said over the years. And when I decided to come back out of retirement recently, I decided, well, maybe I should watch my speech and see what everyone's talking about. And I'm
Oh yeah.
watching it and I'm going, "Oh my God, wait. Holy shit. I said that. Okay. I know why people are paying attention." And I kept watching it. I didn't remember 95% of it. and I'm
Mhm.
watching it. I was blown away myself. I'm like, okay, I see why that changed hundreds of thousands of people around the world, maybe millions, they say. But that, man, that was one hell of a speech. And there were a lot of freestyles in there too. I really liked as the years went on to freestyle. In fact, if you look at the rap community, I'm a big rap fan. Eminem and
Mhm.
Tech Nine and all these guys, they not are only amazing rappers. Over the years, they became amazing freestyle rappers, like insane freestyles that they're doing these days. My speeches kind of became that way too. In fact, on my podcast now, I don't want to see questions in advance. Just ask me anything. I like to freestyle these days and just say what's on my mind. But after the video, the slaughterhouse video in that speech, that was a freestyle. When I came out and I said, right now on American highways, there are no less than 5,000 concentration camp trucks. Inside these trucks are innocent beings. That whole section was a freestyle. On the way to that lecture that morning, I was listening to the radio and I heard them expose another E. coli contamination. And of course, they want to blame the plants. It was the spinach.
Oh, right,
And I'm
right.
so sick of everyone not understanding that E. coli has two sources: shit, human shit, or animal shit. So that part of the speak, that was a freestyle. I said, man, I'm so sick of this. And then when I said spinach doesn't shit, broccoli doesn't shit, and I'm doing that whole section, that was a freestyle. So that, man, that speech just captured everything. And of course, that was 8 years into me giving lectures. So you can understand why I was just in my groove and I felt so comfortable with the crowd and working the crowd, all the pauses that I was doing, everything. It was such a great flow. And I know why people are listening and changing. And if that speech,
Yo,
by the way, sorry, if that speech doesn't make you become vegan, or if watching Earthlings doesn't make you become vegan, you're
mhm.
just a dickhead. All right. There's
Yes,
nothing that you can say after my speech and after Earthlings. You're just a fucking dick if you're not changing after that speech and after Earthlings.
yeah. So it was Earthlings that turned me vegan. Someone suggested I watch Earthlings. Went from steaks one night to basically an animal rights activist the next day after watching Earthlings. So thankfully, my soul had not died at that point.
Right.
It was later getting into activism, getting involved with Anonymous for the Voiceless, which was my second activism event. Was an AV Cube where we were handing out, your speech. We had it on the card. Earthlings, Dominion, Gary Yourofsky's speech. When I started to get more involved in like watching your stuff, I like how you bring up rap because that is kind of that is sort of the power of it. I think for one, your speech is just not what people expect a vegan to be like. So like you definitely come at it from like a sort of a harder mentality, a harder background. You can tell that you're not just in a coffee shop sipping lattes, so one, so
I
I
hate
think your
lattes,
words.
by the way. I hate lattes.
Yeah, and nothing wrong. No shade on
I'm just
latte
saying.
drinkers. It's fine. But yeah, and I also like how you bring up that. So it's not only that your words are raw and you're very direct and blunt, and you can see not only the power, the forcefulness of it, the frustration of it too. You're sick of it. You're sick of talking to these fucking kids, and it's very clear when talking to them. I am tired of having to do this for you. So pay attention. So that's one thing. Like kids were, I'm sure they were appreciative of someone treating them like an adult and not trying to baby them. To me, that is a great sign of respect is when you give somebody the truth and you don't sugarcoat it and you just assume that someone's smart enough and big enough to be able to handle it. Also, and I'll shut up in a second, just the fact that it was filmed in this raw style also shows that it wasn't this, propped up, airbrush thing. That's what I think. Like, it's great that you didn't have the mic and you can hear you didn't need the mic. Your voice carries. So hats
I
off
like
to
that
you.
it wasn't. I like that it wasn't a TED Talk, which is what I'm hearing from you, because I
Yeah.
actually turned, believe it or not, I turned down TED twice when I was in Israel.
Did you?
I said,
Interesting.
I don't need you guys. And plus they wanted to edit it. They wanted me to do this or stand here or take it down to 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I said, no, no, no. You don't make the rules when I'm preaching. I have a message, and I, quite
Yeah,
frankly,
yeah.
I don't need you guys. And I'm not dissing any talks that are out there. There's some good TED Talks, but it is, to me, it seems like this elitist platform and this elitist stage that everyone is on. And thank you, by the way, for appreciating the rawness, because I always came at it that way. I didn't have meetings and discussions about the meetings and debates about the discussions to try to figure out what to do. I just went and did shit. And if anyone is
Yeah.
listening out there, all the vegans out there, just do something. It's better than doing nothing. Analyze it after. I analyzed everything that I did after the fact, not before the fact, because the way I saw it, everyone was analyzing before and then they analyzed again and reanalyzed and never ended up doing anything. So, yeah, there was this raw element to everything. And you brought up as well the realness and the bluntness and the truthfulness. So, every single professor always told me, we've never met anybody so open and willing to discuss everything they believe. And all the students that did listen, that made a change, also said the same thing. Man, we never met somebody that wasn't a politician in front of the crowd. I didn't say
Hmm.
things that people wanted to hear. I said things that people needed to hear, that they had to hear, things that I had to listen to before I became enlightened, before my eyes were opened. And I do want to
Hmm.
ask you a question now. How in the
Hmm.
hell did you get through Earthlings? Man, I 10 minutes. I lasted 10 minutes on Earthlings. I had to shut that shit off. My God, you made it through. I know why you became vegan. How did you watch that
Yeah.
shit, man?
It's honestly, it's hard for me to even remember like what it was like watching through that film because like the first 15 minutes or so, they're comparing all the human atrocities, which meant a lot to me at that time. I was someone who was I used to think to myself, like, would I be that kind of person who stood by while slavery went on, while the Holocaust went on? And I wanted to believe that I would not be that kind of person. Then when it was shown to me, it was very clear that I was that person at that moment because I was standing by while the animals were going through the exact same thing 10 times worse. And so I guess I felt an obligation and maybe a curiosity to see it through.
Yeah.
I also wanted to honor, you know, I think back, it was this beautiful woman at a bar that I walked up to hit on, actually. She actually ended up being a married woman. But she, throughout the course of this hour-long conversation, suggested I watch Earthlings. She changed my life. And I guess I could have a sense in the first like 10 minutes of that film, my life is changing. And you just want to honor someone like that and see it through. So that's how I got through that. I want to put a
Okay.
pin in sort of the rawness because I think, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think that one of the reasons why you were so able to bring that out is you had like already gone to prison for rescuing animals. You had dealt with all these tough individuals. Like you were just someone, I think, at that point who you didn't really give a shit what people thought. But before we get to that part of your story, I want to honor the reason why you're back, which is the Sasha Farms. And if you're just listening to this, it's going to be an audio podcast as well. We've got it on the screen. Donate to Sasha Sanctuary, sashafarm.org. So make sure you go and support Sasha Farm. But I know that's the reason, or one of the main reasons, why you've come back into the fold. So why don't you give a little plug for Sasha and why this place is so special to you?
I've been going to Sasha Farm since 1996. It is a vegan paradise. It's a place where animals can be themselves, where they're not expected to be anyone else besides themselves, where they're given a name, they're allowed to do what they want to do, act how they want to act. And most vegans never get to see the animals that they're saving. So I'm going to urge every vegan out there, if you can get to Sasha Farm in Michigan and Manchester, please go over there. If you can only get to your local sanctuary, get to your local sanctuary, hang out with the chickens and the turkeys and the goats, the sheep and the cows and the pigs, and see how they are individuals, just like every other animal you've ever met, especially the dogs and cats that we love so much, or the horses we love so much. because they are individuals. They act a certain way. Some of them want to be played with, some of them don't. Some of them want belly rubs, others don't. It's the
Right.
same thing. And in fact, I brought somebody down there once, and it always sticks with me. I used to bring a lot of non-vegans there to make them confront the animals that they were exploiting. And Marcus said to me, I didn't even realize the sounds they made were real. I thought that was cartoon stuff. Wow, the
Mm,
roosters really do crow. The cows really do moo, and the pigs really do oink. So it's important to get to know these animals. But Sasha was always a place where I can decompress and I can relax because I was stressed out a lot over the years, and I always went there just to hang out, help out too. There's a lot of help that Sasha Farm and all the sanctuaries need. I got to meet, oh God, a slew of wonderful animal friends over the years. Big Red, I was just showing Carmen a video of me feeding apples to Big Red, who was a 2,200-pound bull. He was my favorite animal at this place for 20 years before he passed away. And you can go online, by the way, press my, put my name in and then put Sasha Farm and Big Red, and you can see me hanging out with Big Red. He actually passed away 3 days after I recorded that video, but that's why I
wow.
recorded it. We knew that he was old and he was sick and he wasn't going to last much longer, so I'm glad I got to immortalize him. He was a special, special animal. And Bima, the ox, right now, is a 1 in a billion cow. No one's ever seen a cow like this. So also put in my name, Sasha Farm, and I think it's Sweetest Ox. This ox purrs if you pet him in the right spot. I didn't even know that bovines could purr. He's so sweet and lovable and friendly. Looks like a huge basset hound. There's so many cool animals. And one day I was there. I was helping Monty bale the hay. Always a tough job baling hay. And then a truck pulls up, a van pulls up, and he goes, Gary, there's a baby pig in that van. Somebody rescued him. He fell off of a slaughterhouse truck. I said, wait a second. There's a baby pig in that van, and I just took off running. I wanted to be the first one, and I run
Mm,
over there. He was so tiny, he fit in my hand. And of course, the first thing I said was, can we name him Gary Tofu, please? It was a nickname of mine over the years. So everyone agreed to call him Gary Tofu, and he was quite a character over the years. Man, there was a baby boar that was brought there, and we ended up calling him Boris. I remember walking into the kitchen area because, get this, a hunter had brought him in. This is the crazy mind of animal abusers. The hunter goes out, shoots the mother, doesn't care at all about taking an innocent life, only cares about himself, like all people that eat meat, cheese, milk, and eggs, and all the hunters that want to kill these animals and cut their heads off and put it on the wall as a trophy. But then he finds that there's a baby boar nearby, and all of a sudden he feels horrible. So he brings the baby and says, hey, can you guys take care of the baby? Of course, we want the baby. We don't want to cuss him out too badly when he gets there. But in our minds, we're like, do you see the psychotic behavior? Or why can't you see the psychotic behavior? You killed the mom, don't care, but now you care about the baby. Anyways,
yeah.
Boris, my God, never met a wild boar. He was a wonderful creature. He was super friendly too, but he had a little rough side. But Boris was there for about 10 or 12 years before he passed away. So many wonderful animals. And Shara Jones is there right now, the animal care manager. She has a great team of volunteers. And Lisa Montez and Bob Harvey and Erica Windish on the board of directors. There's a lot of great people trying to keep this farm alive. And let me be honest, I'm not a fundraiser. I think most people know I'm a straight up activist. So this is a weird role for me to be asking people to help out. I don't know how to do it except, hey, can you send them some money? They need money. Now, they only are in desperate times right now because Monty, oh, well, Dorothy Davies passed away in 2021. She was the matriarch of this place. It would be running perfectly if she was still alive. She passed. Monty wanted to retire, but Monty is demanding that we pay him for the 50 acres of land that Sasha
Mm,
Farm resides on. Well, 50 acres in Manchester, Michigan goes for $675,000. We checked it out with real estate people. In
wow.
fact, there's a vegan real estate agent that's handling this who I've known for 25 years. So unfortunately, the price is accurate, but we don't have that kind of money. Sasha always brought in about 250,000 a year, which they still are, and they're fine off 250. We need to raise the 675 to buy it. Otherwise, we're not sure what the hell Monty's going to do with it. Close it down, make us get, ship the animals out to other sanctuaries, which is going to be a pain. So we worked out a 5-year land contract, so we have some time, but please send in that money. We need to pay off this farm so we can get money out of the whole equation right now. So that's the desperate times, and that's why we're in these desperate times right
Mm.
now. But Sasha Farm is a paradise. Again, go online. I think I did 6 or 7 videos where I was at Sasha Farm. They were all freestyles, by the way. I just told
Hmm.
somebody, grab the camera, turn it on. I'm just going to hang out with this animal over here. I'm going to hang out with Big Red. I'm going to hang out with Bima. I'm going to go hang out with the pigs, hang out with the chickens and the turkeys, the goats and the sheep. And I just started talking, and it was some really, really good stuff. So check out Sasha Farm, and please send some, and listen, if you guys are insisting on helping your local sanctuary, guess what? I'm not upset. Help the sanctuaries. They're all struggling right now. Yeah, I want
Hmm.
people to send money to Sasha Farm, but if it's your local sanctuary, that's the one you volunteer at. Give them some time, a couple hours a week, send them some money, do something, because sanctuaries are struggling. There's a horrible mentality right now in this movement that giving money to sanctuaries is a waste of money, which I challenge, because if we're going to convince people to help animals, to not harm animals, animals are going to need a place to stay. And right now, this is our responsibility as vegans. This falls on us. The vegans have to save the sanctuaries. Even though I believe the meat, dairy, and egg eaters should be forced to, there should be some kind of a tax on them that all that money
Hmm.
should go to a sanctuary. But right
Right.
now, that's not reality. It's on the vegan community. So
Yeah.
help out the sanctuaries. And for anybody out there, I know I got some haters out there. I receive no compensation from Sasha Farm for doing this. In fact,
Mm.
Shara Jones gets a salary. We're open now and honest. She gets a $50,000 salary. There's 2 or 3 people that get $21 an hour for working there, and the rest volunteers. So the majority of all your donations is going directly to the animals. And you know what? I should say all of it, because Shara Jones is there all the time working. So all your money goes to Sasha Farm and pays for Shara and the other employees. I don't get any compensation. This is because I've been going there for about 30 years, and it would break my heart if this sanctuary closed down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you meet some of the best people in working in sanctuaries because they're giving their lives, and it's amazing the amount of work that it is. You just have to volunteer at a sanctuary to see, oh my God, after 2 hours, I'm exhausted. And these people do this all day long, every day, with some help from some volunteers, a handful of volunteers who show up when they want to. Now, there's a lot of people who really dedicate themselves the way that you have as well. And I know this is not about us, it's not about people, but as you've pointed out, these are sanctuaries for us too, for animal rights activists to be able to go and spend time with these animals. And, I still remember the first sanctuary that I went to. It was shortly after going vegan. I remember this goat like it was yesterday. This goat walked up to me. I'm not a spiritual guy. It was like a spiritual moment, though. This goat walked up to me and like put his head against my shoulder and kept
Ah,
it there for like 10 minutes. It was like a hug. It was incredible. And and prior to that point, Gary, I had never had any interaction with farm animals except maybe at, some exploitative thing like a fair, right? Or
right.
something like that. So yeah, it's a great way. And I do think it's important for people to kind of meet these animals and understand what these animals are like too. Just know who you're saving. As you mentioned, they're all individuals, but that's what like you pointed out, that's what you're going to see on these sanctuaries. You're going to see that this cow is different from this cow, this chicken's different from this chicken, and that's probably
They're
the
all
main
different from
point.
each other. And by the way, there's horses and
Yeah.
donkeys there too. I just wanted to bring up something about horses that just came into my mind. I traveled the country. I was in 31 different states, and I always heard this dumb comment from people who exploited horses, that horses like to run. These are people that want to defend the horse racing industry. Horses love to run. Well, first of all, I've been to 31 states. Whenever I saw a horse, He was sitting in a field grazing. In fact, at Sasha Farm, I've seen the horses run once in 30
Mm.
years. It's when we built a bigger pasture for them. Opened up the gate that day. About 10 horses. They go and they run a big circle. We're like, oh my God, they're actually running. They ran one circle around this place and stopped and started grazing again. So people
Right.
need to see these animals to understand how they really are. If horses do want to run, they want to run on their own terms, without
Right.
somebody sitting on their back, without a bit placed into their mouth, which is a horrible device. And I'm out here in Sevilla, by the way. I just did a video for Instagram exposing the horse carriage industry, which is vile because these horses have to walk 10, 12, 13 hours a day, lugging around lazy, fat, stupid human beings in 100-degree weather with a bit in their mouth. It's one of the most evil devices. You just shove it in their mouth and it controls every movement every time they tug on the reins. You know how sensitive the inside of the mouth is? So we're trying to expose how evil the horse carriage industry is too. And again, if you go and see the horses, you'll realize they don't want to be tugging somebody around all day long, lugging thousands of pounds all day long. They don't want someone sitting on their back. They don't want a bit placed in their mouth. And there's a phrase everybody has to stop saying. I'm going to be exposing this a lot now that I'm online. It's chomping at the bit. People seem to use this term, think that it means, oh, I'm raring to go. I'm excited. I'm chomping at the bit. They're chomping at the bit because it fucking hurts, because it's
Mm.
evil and they want it out of their mouth. So everybody needs to stop saying that fucking absurd phrase. It's not what
Interesting.
you think it means. They want
Uh,
it out of their mouths. But the horses are such cool creatures. I remember one day I was in the field. I was mucking shit, picking you got to get to the sanctuary, clean up
yeah, yeah.
all the animal poop. So here I am putting all the poop into the bucket, and I turn around and Molly was the matriarch horse at this farm for well over 20 years. She was a beautiful white horse. And I turn around and she's standing right next to me. I mean, how does this 1,200-pound creature sidle up next to me without me knowing? She did. I turned around. She was right there looking at me as if to say, well, thanks for cleaning up the field for us, man. I appreciate that. And you'll see how
Nice.
appreciative the animals are. You just brought it up. That goat, I'm sure that goat put his head on your shoulder to say, hey, thanks for being a good person. Thanks for making sure I'm at this nice place. I always think animals have another sense that we've either never developed or that we
Mm.
used to have when we used to be connected to the world before we thought that we ruled the world and became disconnected from the world. But I think the animals know good from bad, and I think they sense who's good and who's bad. Well, in nearly all cases they do. Sometimes they're so afraid and frightened they just can't differentiate between all human beings. I was going to get into
Yeah.
another story, but quickly, the reason I stopped going to places of torture, slaughterhouses, auction houses, vivisection labs, behind the scenes at the circus, I've been everywhere. I had to see it for myself. I went to an auction house that was in Manchester, around 15 minutes from Sasha Farm, and I was getting footage back there, and it was the only time there were two cows and two sheep that shivered in fear from me. And I was saying, no, wait a second, guys, it's Gary. I'm just getting footage. I have to show people what you're going through. And they shivered in fear, and it broke my heart. And I never went to another place of torture again. And I bring this up too because if people ever wonder why I become so militant at times, or vegans in general become militant, that's why they couldn't differentiate between me and the two-legged devils that torture them. And for that moment in time, I was a two-legged devil to them, because that's all they saw was a human being, and human beings are devils. And it was like they were saying to me, where are you going to take me now? What are you going to cut off of me
Mm.
now, you two-legged devil? Who are you going to kill now? Which family member and friend are you going to kill now? Leave me alone, two-legged devil. And it was just, man, I was in tears at the time. And sometimes I've only told this story in front of a classroom 4 or 5 times because I break down in tears. But this is why vegans become militant. And that's why I became really militant, and why I used words during my speech like Nazi and called people out for being Nazis and called and made Holocaust and slavery references, or explained the true definition of rape and the true definition of torture. But that's why, because animals do have a sixth sense and they do know right from wrong in nearly all cases. But sometimes we frighten them so much. We're just two-legged devils. In fact, there was a bishop, William Ralph Inge, who said that if animals ever formed an organized religion, the devil would be depicted in human form.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
this is what drives me and you and all the vegans out there. We don't want to be devils to them anymore. But the meat, dairy, and egg eaters of the world don't understand. The hunters of the world don't understand. The people that ride horse carriages are not understanding that when we treat them like objects, like commodities, when we exploit them, we are devils to them. We're definitely not
Yeah.
friendly to them.
The last interview I had on my channel was with Joanne MacArthur, and there are so many parallels to what you and she were saying. So one, it's like, farm sanctuary was her sanctuary. Some of the photos that she shared with me were so powerful were from farm sanctuary. And then one of the things I asked her too is when she's taking her photographs of these animals, does she ever get a sense while she's filming the animals that they have a sense that she's there to help, not to harm? And she said yes. She told me this story about this bear who, I didn't know this, Gary. Like, you keep learning things about animal exploitation that you think you'll get to the end and you keep learning things. She was telling me about this bear that was used for bear bile farming. I knew about that. I didn't know that they did this thing called bear paw soup where they cut off the paws of bears. So this bear was at a bear sanctuary with nubs, for arms. She got too close to the cage. The bear grabbed her, could have harmed her, but was just playing with her and let her out. And I wonder, you mentioned the goat that I told you about had this maybe sixth sense. And whereas in the animals that are being exploited in these hellholes, maybe they lose that sense because, as you said, they're so terrified. And fear, we know that's a powerful drug. So I and this is a great point to bring up, a great segue into, I would you remind me of a lot of people I know. One is our mutual friend Jerry Vlasic. It's like I feel like you guys lack a certain part of your brain that feels fear. It's like you and Jerry and so tell me a little bit, why is that? You're a bit of a nut job in the best way, Gary. I say
No,
that
that's a compliment.
lovingly.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And you use it, you wield it like a superpower. So like where is it? Like I'm sure you feel fear at some points, but I just never see it. I never see it. So where did that come from?
Fearlessness is probably my greatest trait. It's crazy. It comes out for the animals because I have to be their voice. I can't be in fear, and I experience. So I like to think that I absorb their pain and their fear. I want to bear the cross for them, which is why it became so heavy over the years. So I felt that I had to be this way on their behalf. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? So it was something natural that just poured out of me. And yeah, and just like the way I presented all those speeches in front of those crowds, mind you, I was in front of Ohio State University animal agriculture students 6 to 8
Oh
times a
shit.
year,
Dude.
300 students in a factory farming class. I went places where nobody would dare go. I went to rural America, rural Ohio, rural North Carolina, Beaufort Community College, Halifax Community College. I remember showing up at Beaufort and Halifax that first time. It was about 2002, rural North Carolina, and all the students were in camouflage. I lean over to the professor just before the lecture. I said, "Man, they came to fuck with me today, huh?" He said, "No. Why do you say that?" I said, "Well, look at the camouflage outfits." He said, "Welcome to rural North Carolina, Gary. This is how they dress. This is how they are." But I got to tell you, Beaufort and Halifax, all those students out there were wonderful. They were fabulous. I reached the people that people thought were unreachable. Why? Truthfulness, wasn't a politician, laid it on the line, called people out, and they were thankful for being called out. I can't tell you how many times kids approached me after the class. I'm going vegan, best speech you ever heard. Man, thanks for calling me out. Thanks for giving me a kick in the ass. No one ever had the courage before to tell me that I was living wrong, that I was being evil, that I was being a two-legged devil to somebody else, that I was acting like a Nazi would act towards these animals. So I don't know, man. But it's natural, it's real, and being a nut job, by the way, I'm in good company. All right, I don't want to
Hmm.
put myself in there, but other people have. But listen, all the people throughout history that we collectively admire. Nelson Mandela sat in a prison for 27 fucking years. All he had to do was apologize, change his tune, and they would have let him out. Okay, that's a fucking nut job in the greatest way. I mean, I only did
Right.
77 days. I was going nuts 27 years. Okay, but Cesar Chavez, Malcolm X, Dr. King, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, the guy that went out and killed all those slave owners. These were all wonderful, nutty, crazy, outside of the box thinkers, and I take it as a compliment when people say that,
Hmm.
man, you're crazy, Gary. You're out. How did you do all this shit? I had to. I wasn't gonna make change working inside the box. Had to go outside the box and come back in. I just had to do it for the animals, man. And Jerry and I, by the way, Jerry and I go way
Hmm.
back. We go
Yeah,
back to the
yeah, yeah.
'90s, and we did some crazy shit together. You want to hear a crazy story I almost never
Please,
get to
please,
tell?
please tell me some Jerry stories.
I'm
Yeah.
going to give you a fucking story that I only think a couple people have ever heard. So Jerry and I are hanging out. This is 2001, and I had gone down to Beverly Hills, California. I met somebody who said that she would take care of me. She was a wealthy attorney, said I can do my activism. Well, we didn't really click and didn't get along. After 7 days, I had to leave. So I called Jerry up, and remember, Jerry used to be married to Pam Ferdin, who was the voice of Lucy on Charlie Brown. We were
Correct.
three of us, man. We were quite a team, did a lot of crazy shit. So I call up Jerry on a Friday, said, man, you got to come get me out of here. I got to leave. It's like, Gary, it's our wedding anniversary. Pam and I are going to Palm Springs. I'm like, well, tough shit. There's gonna be a third wheel this weekend. So they pick me up. They take me there. I tell Terry that I'm gonna come back on Monday and get my stuff. So Jerry brings me back after the weekend on Monday, and all my stuff is on the front porch. All right, whatever, kind of childish, but hey, I just wanted to get out of this. So I'm loading up my car with all this stuff. My dog Rex is with me too. He's kind of running around outside. And I noticed there's a certain black bag that isn't there. And that black bag had some ALF paraphernalia from back in the day. Now, not her fault. I hid it in the closet. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm knocking on the door. I know her dog nanny. She had a dog nanny named Darcy who was there, but she wouldn't open the door. I'm like, Darcy, I just want to get something. Terry forgot to put it out. She wouldn't answer. So Jerry says, we'll come back and get it tomorrow. I said, no, I want this to be over with right now. So Jerry says, well, there's an open window over there. Why don't you just jump through the window and go get it? I said, well, I guess not the first window I've jumped through to go get something. So usually I'm going to get animals, but this time I was going to get a bag. So I jumped through the window. Takes me a couple minutes, walk to the back of the house. I find it buried in the closet. Want to make sure the closet is nice and neat as I took things out. So it took me 2 or 3 minutes. As I'm walking out the front door, here comes the crazy shit. So I'm like Homer Simpson now. La 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 la. I'm just in, la la land. And I open the front door, and in my head, there's a voice that says, why is Jerry laying face down on the concrete? And I keep walking and I'm not getting it. And again, why is Jerry laying face down on the concrete? All of a sudden, there are 12 Beverly Hills police officers with guns drawn. One is across the street on the roof, and they say, drop that bag and get on the ground. Now, I
Jesus.
have an authority problem. You want to hear about crazy and fearlessness? Cops with guns drawn several times doesn't faze me whatsoever. So I'm like, I ain't dropping shit. I live here. I'm just getting something that belongs to me because I'm moving out. Drop that bag right now and get on the ground. Now, Jerry knows how I am. Jerry's like, Gary, they're going to shoot you. Would you just drop the bag? I'm like, Jerry, I ain't dropping shit. Plus, I'm OCD. I'm not getting down on the ground. I don't like dirt. I don't like filth. So the cops still are yelling at me. So finally, I drop the bag. And they're like, get on the ground. So I get on the ground. And they're like, put your head down. I'm like, I'm definitely not putting my head face down on the ground. Not going to happen, guys. So I'm on the ground like this. And they come over and they cuff me. They cuff Jerry. They put us on the curb of the street. And the sergeant comes over. And I said, I live here. What is going on? You guys are so dramatic and overreacting. I'm just trying to move out. There's my car over there. All my things are in the car. And the sergeant says, well, we got a call from inside the house that you were inside the house waving a gun, threatening to shoot Darcy. I don't get it either. The look on your face. I'm like, what? What do
Yeah.
you, what? And I said, well, no, it can't be. And Jerry says to me, set up. I looked at him and I go, what? He goes, you've been set up. I said, what? I don't even get it. Now, my black bag is sitting by the front of the house. Let's go back to that portion. I had to drop the bag. Two cops are there kicking the black bag, feeling it out. And all of a sudden I go, oh shit, Jerry, you don't want them to open up that black bag. And the sergeant also told me there was a rash of robberies in the area. We think you're the one doing it, which is why there were
Wow.
12 cops responding so quickly. And I said, oh my God, they're going to open up this bag. One cop leans down, unzips the bag, ski mask, bolt cutters, gun. Yeah, I know ALF is nonviolent. That's where I kind of strayed from ALF shit. I had a gun. I don't mind in certain cases. I think there's justification for retaliatory violence. That's a whole nother issue. But takes out the gun,
You
a
and Jerry.
hammer, tools, all these. He's taking out everything, and they're laughing now, like we got him. And they're showing the gun and the ski mask. And I got my head down like this now. I'm like, and I feel Jerry stare on me like, what the fuck did you just get me on into? I finally look and I'm like, sorry. He's like, Gary. I'm like, fuck, man. I didn't know this was gonna happen. So now this is my fearlessness too. So I asked for the sergeant again. So now there are times where I don't believe logic can work anymore. So I have to be sarcastically truthful. This is why I
Mhm.
have that essay that nobody understands about violence. Why I said I hope that all these horrible things happen to people because they weren't going to listen to logic. I thought they listened to this truthful sarcasm. So I told the sergeant, I said, okay, you got me busted red handed. I want you to know I always pull all my robberies in broad daylight with my doctor friend that drops me off in his black BMW. And I always bring my dog Rex to all my B&Es. The
Yeah.
sergeant gets it. To my surprise, he starts laughing. He goes, wait a second, what's going on? I was like, would you listen to me? I live here. Even if it was 7 days, I lived here. I'm trying to leave. I'm not getting along with this woman. Call her up right now. I gave the number. I'm like, A1A, blah, blah, blah. Call her. She'll tell you. He calls, thankfully. She says, yeah, I thought I put all this stuff out. So, anyways, it's not over yet. So now the cop doesn't want to give me the gun back. I'm like, keep the fucking gun. I don't even care anymore. He goes, you can come get it in 48 hours. I don't know if there's a domestic situation. I said, okay, I'm not a domestic abuser, never have, never would be, ever. But you know, keep the fucking gun. I'm just trying to leave. So we leave, da da da. A couple days, like about a week later, we're passing through Beverly Hills, and Jerry says, why don't you stop and get your gun? I said, well, I don't even care about that gun. He goes, Gary, aren't you broke? I'm a little tired of taking care of you right now. Why don't you go sell the gun at a pawn shop? I'm like, okay, man, let's stop and get the gun. So I walk inside, try to get the gun. I give him my ID. All of a sudden, they go into the back room. I can see 4 or 5 cops having a meeting. And all of a sudden, I got a radar that goes off like, oh shit, something's not good. Why did I come here? And they're talking, and I'm thinking, should I run? Should I leave right now? The sergeant comes out and he says, Mr. Yourofsky, the only reason we're not arresting you right now is because we're not sure if the felony you committed in Canada when you freed the mink from the mink farm, we're not sure if that felony holds up in America. But the ATF was down here this week, and we've already had another meeting about you. Just so you know, it's illegal for a felon to have a firearm in America, and you're facing 2 years minimum mandatory in a federal prison. I suggest you don't go too far. My heart hits the ground like, oh my God, this is terrible. So I leave. He lets me go. I call my attorney back home in Michigan, Matt Savage. He goes, Gary, get the hell out of there right now. He goes, even though it's federal, they can get you anywhere. They're less likely to get you if you're back in Michigan because you're so far away from California. He goes, but I'm not your attorney. I'm in Michigan. Let me call you a California attorney. Hang on, give me 5 minutes. I got a friend. He calls me back. This California attorney says, I don't want you to go anywhere because if they pick you up, I want to tell the judge you didn't run. because you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't realize the felony in Canada. So I'm freaked out. I go hide somewhere. I said, "Can I go hide somewhere?" He goes, "Yeah." So I go hide at this ratty little motel that I found. And day after day, Matt's telling me to leave. I finally, after 5 days, I told the California attorney, "I'm leaving." Jump in my car. I put it on cruise control. I never would take unnecessary risk. I don't want cops to stop me ever, even when I'm traveling. So I'm never speeding. And as I'm passing through Texas, get this, I get stopped by a cop. He comes up and I say, "Officer, I wasn't speeding. Well, what's the problem? I had it on cruise control." He says, "Well, those things don't always work. Maybe you need to get it recalibrated." I said, "What?" He goes, "Let me see some ID, identification." So I give it to him. He's in the car for about 10 minutes. He comes back and he says, "Get this. Why don't you step out of the car and come sit in the front seat with me?" What? When has a cop ever said that? He goes, "Don't worry, I'm not gonna put you in the back seat. Just come sit in the front seat. I just want to talk to you for a second." I'm skeptical. I'm like, what the fuck? So I get out of the car. I go to he puts me in the front of the car. He gets
Hmm.
in and then he points towards my forearm. I don't know if you can see it right now. I got an
Yeah,
ALF
yeah, yeah,
tattoo. I'm trying to show. I can't get the
yeah.
right
Oh
angle. I'm
yeah,
sorry, but
yeah.
it says ALF, and it's a picture
Hmm.
of me with a mask on, holding a bunny rabbit. He points towards the ALF. He goes, "What's that? Animal Liberation Front?" So yeah. He says, "I just want you to know, we know that you left California. We know what you're doing, but you can
Wow.
go. You can go.
But you
Just so
can
you
go.
know, you can go. We know that you left. Don't think that we don't know." And he let me. I mean, so I mean, I listen. If people think I'm radical now, this is Gary 2.0. If you if you didn't know me in the 90s and the early 2000s, man, I was as radical as they came. So that was one of the craziest stories ever, from the cops at the house to 12
Yeah.
cops pulling their guns, pulling out the gun on me, to the Texas cops stopping me and telling me, we know you left."
Well, I'm
Crazy.
actually super annoyed with Jerry now for not telling me this story before. Like, how are you gonna leave this one out? I don't know why he has not told me that. Because when I
I
told him,
think I think I took ownership of that story. I might have told, like, "This is my
uh,
story. I want to tell
yeah,
this, but don't tell it because you can't
that's
tell it
right.
like me."
Yeah, yeah, he wasn't gonna capture it. But yeah, when I told him that I was gonna be interviewing you, his face lit up. He loves you. You guys know the kinship you guys have. You two are like peas in a pod. But he was like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Gary's back." And he did tell me some stories that I'm not gonna tell on here because I don't want you to get more haters, man. But
I
he
love
told me
Jerry. I
some.
love Jerry, man. We
Yeah,
go
yeah,
way back. We did a lot of shit together, man. And he supported me through a lot of things, through the Mink Liberation too, helped out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. By
Yeah.
the way, we
No,
should
Jerry.
mention who Jerry is. If people don't know, Jerry, he's the spokesperson for the North American Animal Liberation Press Office for a long time now, who, helps like put out communiques from anonymous ALF. Basically, they'll get like, sometimes it's the ALF, sometimes it's somebody else will send in an anonymous communique to this press office so they can put out a press release so that the perspective can come from the animal rights perspective instead of just the media. So anyway, and Jerry used to do Sea Shepherd stuff and worked on the Shack campaign. Just a complete legend of the movement.
Hey,
Who
here's
I've been
here's
like,
another funny thing. Jerry would hear me speak. I would obviously preach even more than Jerry. So Jerry would hear me get to a part when I'm preaching, and I say, "I got banned from 5 countries." Jerry would
yeah,
interrupt and say, "Excuse me, Gary, 6 countries. Try to keep up, okay? Try to keep." I'm like, "Oh damn,
yeah,
Jerry's got one extra one on me." So Jerry's
yeah,
as radical as they come too. Yeah.
yeah, he is. He is. Well, that's amazing. This story is also funny to me just because, like, I especially like, well, the story's incredible. The cop at the end in Texas, like, it was such like an intimidation play, and it's like they didn't know who they were dealing with. Like, I mean, obviously, you've expressed like being freaked out at points during this story, but there's still a part of you that's like, look, bring it on. And I mean, it sounds like you. So which attorney was right? Should he have stayed in California? Should he have come to Michigan? What do you think about that?
Matt Savage was right. In fact, I guess I should wrap the story up. About a year later, Matt calls me up and he says, Gary, you are the luckiest guy ever. And I said, why? Did you hit the lottery? Do I get a piece of it? He's like, no, I just got a letter from the ATF. They said if you forfeit the gun, they won't pursue any additional charges with this. You're going to be off. Again, keep the fucking gun already. I
Yeah, you
don't
didn't
want the gun
care.
anymore.
That was
Yes,
Jerry's
no.
fault.
Yeah, so I ended up getting off. Matt, by the way, Matt was a great guy, still a great guy, still a great friend of mine. Back in the 90s, when I decided, I think it was 97, I wanted to do civil disobedience, I sent a letter to the Animal Legal Defense Fund, ALDF. I said, can I have a list of Michigan attorneys? I'm looking for someone to represent me pro bono. And they gave me a list of 25. I sent out letters to 25. Matt was the only one that responded and said, absolutely, I will represent you. And he told me over the years, Gary, man, you do everything that I want to do. I wish I could do. I have a family. I have a law practice. I can't do this stuff. I will gladly defend you. And Matt, man, you should get Matt on the show to tell you some of the crazy shit I pulled in the courtrooms. Some other things I don't get to talk about. I also decided after my second arrest, I wasn't going to stand up for judges anymore. Who the fuck are they that I should rise when they enter the room? So back in the 90s, if you followed the news in Michigan, you knew who I was. I was getting arrested almost every week. I was in the Detroit Free Press, Detroit News, on the radio station, TV station, leading off the 5 o'clock news. So I'm sitting in the courtroom and I just decide you know what? A lot of things I did was pretty much a freestyle. So I'm sitting in the front row going, I'm not standing up for this judge today. So Judge David Bradfield comes in the room and the bailiff says, everybody rise for the Honorable David Bradfield. And I'm the only one that doesn't stand up. Bailiff comes up to me and he says, sir, stand up. And I shook my head. I said, mm-mm. He said, sir, I said, stand up. I said,
All right, we're back. Had a little glitch there, but Gary, you were talking about your courtroom experience when the judge is telling you to stand up.
So the bailiffs come over, they're asking me to stand up. I'm shaking my head and refusing. And then Bradfield must have been watching the news because by my first name, he says, Gary, I'm not trying to make you do something you don't want to do. It's kind of a tradition that people rise when a judge enters the courtroom. I know why people do it. That's why I'm not doing it. And we had a stare down for about 45 seconds. Yeah, here
It's a
comes the
long time.
fearlessness. We stare each other down. And guess who won? Yeah, the Kid Tofu wins. He calls the bailiff off. Both of them. He makes a gesture like, leave him alone. So now, whatever, the courtroom goes on, blah, blah, blah. So Matt was late that day. So Matt comes in, he handles the case, blah, blah, blah. In the hallway after, he goes, wait for me in the hallway. I gotta do something with the clerk. He comes out, he says, did you refuse to stand up for the judge today? I said, you're damn right I did, and I won't be standing up for judges anymore. He goes, okay, man. He goes, you are the craziest, coolest dude I've ever fucking met. But from now on, if I'm representing you, you're going to stay out in the hallway. We're going to start the court case. Then I'm going to come get you once everything is set. But so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did a lot of crazy shit. I didn't listen. I interrupted judges several times and got away with it. Matt and my other attorney, Steve Rogan in Canada for the mink liberation, they all told me, man, I have never seen anybody interrupt a judge and have the judge listen. I said, listen, I'm not interrupting to be a dick. I'm making a point. I was before Bradfield again later on for another act of civil disobedience, and he had the audacity to tell me, oh, Gary, it's not that I disagree with what you believe in, it's how you went about it. You broke the law. Now, Bradfield is black. I'm bringing this up for a reason. So I say to him, you have some nerve to sit there and tell me that I shouldn't be breaking laws because the only reason you're up there as a black judge is because black activists in the 60s and 70s broke laws. They broke unjust laws. What are you talking about? He knew I was right. And he was so mad though, because no judge wants to be wrong, especially to in front of a defendant. He is like,
Right.
$50 fine. Get him out of my courtroom now. But I was right. I didn't say that to be a dick, and it wasn't a racist comment. It was an anti-racist comment because my heroes, when I first started, I looked at the Black Panthers, I looked at early Malcolm X, I looked at Marcus Garvey, I looked at Rosa Parks. Dr. King was a radical lawbreaker too. How dare people forget history? All these people. Gandhi was a radical lawbreaker. When people put these pacifist halos over their head, okay, fine, they were a pacifist. That doesn't mean they weren't lawbreakers. Laws that are unjust need to be broken, and that's all I was doing, was following in their footsteps. Now, I'll say this: nowadays, I don't think civil disobedience, law breaking, is an effective tactic anymore. I don't think going to jail for what you believe in does anything to society. I don't think the judges look. I don't think your supporters look. I don't think your enemies look anymore. It used to mean something, so I don't recommend that as a tactic anymore. But I don't take it away, because all those arrests put me on the map. No one gave a shit what I had to say before I got arrested. Well, I go to jail for the mink. I'm doing all this civil disobedience. All of a sudden, all the professors and the teachers start calling, hey, could you come to our class and tell us why you break laws and go to jail for the animals? The media's calling, hey, Mr. Yourofsky, can we talk to you about why you went to jail for these mink? So it put me on the map, and it gave me a leg to stand on. And I do want to be honest about one thing. We're talking about fearlessness. I want you to know, this is a story that I don't tell often either. I was only afraid once, one time in the last 29 years. Now, you know how guys are. Guys hate to be intimidated. So I'm a great
Hmm.
intimidator. I intimidate first and back everybody down. So I'm in jail for the mink liberation now. It's the first day that I'm in jail, and I'm all over the 5 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news, lead story. Yourofsky comes from Michigan, goes to Blenheim, Ontario, puts the mink farmer out of business, causes $2.1 million in damage. So the alpha male stands up and he says, where the hell you get off coming to our country and doing all this stuff? So I say, well, listen, man, I was trying to stop violence. These animals were being mistreated. They have their necks broken manually, the fur ripped off their bodies so people can buy a fur coat. I was giving these animals, these innocent beings, a chance to be free from all this violence. This
Hmm.
guy says to me, you're in the wrong fucking cell because we're all fucking violent. So mind you, in 2 seconds, all this goes through my head. I'm like, holy shit, that's a great line. I wish I came up with that. If I get out of this, I can't wait to tell people about that. Wow, you're in the wrong fucking cell because we're all fucking violent. My heart hit the ground. I'm like, oh my God, he really got me. I'm intimidated for the first time. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
10 of his boys behind him start walking towards me. And I put up my hands like, oh, I don't want to get my ass kicked. I'm about to get my ass pummeled to, oh, this is going to be horrible. I always believe that someone is looking out for me when it comes to animal activism, though. At
Mm.
that moment, as they're walking towards me, the warden walks down the hall and calls me over to the side of the cage. He says, hey, Yourofsky, come over here. And I'm like, so I walk over. He wants to tell me the rules of the prison. The rules. He goes, hey,
Nice.
on Tuesday is the commissary. You can't have more than $50 in your account. You make your bed every
You're like,
morning.
yes,
You do
sir.
this. We take you. Yeah. So under my breath, I say, can I speak to you in private real quick? And he looks me up and down. I'm like, can I talk to you in private for a second? He looks me up and down again. He wants to make sure that I'm not fucking with him, whatever. He could see the despair in in my eyes. I'm
Yeah.
like, can I please? So he takes me out of the cell, tells the guard, open up the cell, take Yourofsky down the hall. So he walks me down the hallway and he says, what's going on? So, well, I can't tell you exactly because it's prison, and I can't really say, I just can't tell on others, but I'd appreciate it if you move me to a different cell. Can you just put me in a different unit? Everything will be fine after that. Just move me. I'm just not getting along with some people in there. Again, he looks me up and down to make sure I'm not fucking with him, and he's like, okay. Yourofsky, or a guard, grab Yourofsky's stuff and bring him down the hallway, put him in unit number, G unit, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I never had a problem after that. In fact, I actually started, I had to confront 3 or 4 other people in situations where I intimidated them. Jail is not a pretty place to be. You do have to stand up for yourself and do things that you normally wouldn't do. But Man, that moment is still. Listen, I'm giving him props. That should be in a movie. That Steven Seagal, Jason Statham should be saying that line. You're in the wrong fucking cell because we're all fucking violent.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you cut your teeth, yeah, all this prison experience for you. And I wonder that I was thinking this whole like 45-second stare down, that is uncomfortable. 45 seconds is a long time. We should try it. Let's try it right now. Go ahead and stare at me for 45 seconds and let's see if I can even handle it. The way you did it to the judge,
You want rough Gary? I'm still
rough,
smiling though.
yeah. Let's do it. Yeah, yeah. Try see if you can. I want to. Okay. Check it out. All right. I think that's 45 seconds. Now, I was comfortable because I knew you don't hate me, but damn, that's a long time if that was what it was. Yeah.
I was fearless there, and that's what. So the judges and the cops didn't know how to handle me because the whole point of being threatened with arrest or threatened with prison is that you're supposed to be afraid and terrified and beg for your life and your freedom. Well, what happens when you get someone like me who says, "I don't give a fuck. Take me to prison. Send me away.
Mhm.
I don't give a fuck because when I get out, I'm going to come right back here and do it again." Do you know how many cops used to threaten me at a protest and say, "I'm going to arrest you"? I would turn around, put my hands behind my back, go up and bump them and say, "Go ahead, arrest me. I give a fuck." And I bump them and they back down. They were back, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Go ahead, arrest me. You think I'm afraid? Go ahead, take me to jail. Because when I get out in fucking 4 hours, I'm going to come right back here and you have to do it again. Go ahead, now what?" And then they would say to me, "Man, you're crazy." I said, "Why? 'Cause I'm not afraid of you? Because I'm supposed to be afraid?" So the whole, if you take away their edge, and I know it's tough because people, listen, I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't enjoy prison. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I hated it, but I was willing to do it for the animals. I made a vow to a bunch of animals back in the 90s that I would give my freedom. I would give my life. I would do anything on their behalf. And that was what I was willing to do. And man, that the system doesn't know how to handle somebody that doesn't mind going to jail. Gandhi did it. I mean, when Gandhi got arrested the first time for burning his identification card, the judge was going to let him off with a fine or a parole. And he said, and Gandhi said to him, "You want to hear radical?" He said, "If you believe in the unjust laws that you have passed that are on the books, then I'll accept nothing less than the maximum amount of time." The
Yeah,
judge gives him the maximum. He could have walked. So it's how do you handle somebody that is not afraid of the system? And I did it all the time, interrupted judge. In fact, for the mink liberation, and you're going to hear this speech soon. So everyone says Georgia Tech speech, best speech ever. Excellent. Second best speech ever. If you ask me. Best speech ever is a speech that almost nobody ever heard. My mink liberation speech to the judge the day I got sentenced and convicted. And I re-recorded this on Joey Carbstrong's podcast last month. It hasn't been released yet. You want to talk about being taken back to the moment? You just asked me to go back to that moment for the stare down. Joey surprises me midway during this podcast, hands me an iPad, says, "Gary, I want you to do something." I'm like, "What?" He said, "Read this liberation speech." And I said, "Oh my God, I've always wanted to say it again and put it on audio and video." And let's put it this way, I was transported back. It was so genuine. Joey and the two camera people were in tears when I was done. Wait till they release this, because now that day that I got convicted, my attorney, Steve Rogan in Canada, tells me, well, he didn't tell me till after. He goes, I was going to get 3 years in prison. They had already decided that morning. So he was begging me all morning, Gary, don't do this speech. Don't, you're going to aggravate the judge. It's going to get worse. You don't do. And I said, Steve, this speech is being said. There's nothing that will make me not say what I need to say today on behalf of these animals. So I said it. I'll give you a quick highlight. I think maybe the most poignant part was my presence in this courtroom today is paradoxical. I asked this court if it's not a crime to torture, enslave, and murder animals, then how can it be a crime to free tortured, enslaved, and soon to be murdered animals? The judge at that point goes like this. He goes, there were three parts of the speech where the judge turned his head to the side and was like, he's got a point. And at the end, I said, if you think I'm going to experience an apostasy, meaning an abandoning of my beliefs, by sentencing me to prison, this court is sadly mistaken. And then I quoted William Lloyd Garrison, a slave abolitionist. I said, I do not think to, I do not wish to think or speak or write in moderation. My presence will be felt in coming years, not perniciously, but beneficially, not as a curse, but as a blessing, and posterity will bear testimony that I was right. There will be no compromise today because the truth cannot be compromised. And that judge at the end, too, was like, wow. He ends up giving me 6 months. I
Yeah.
brought the sentence down. My attorney leans over and Steve says, I've never seen anybody talk themselves down from a sentence. That judge really listened to you, man. Wow, what a speech. I said, yeah, again, does anyone understand the cause I'm fighting and the words, the truthfulness of my words that I'm saying? But that, and then the judge gave me the old trite line at the end. It's not that I disagree with what you believe in. It's how you went about it. You broke a law, so I have to sentence you. Now, just so you know, there were three reasons I did that mink liberation. One was to give the animals a chance to be free. Two was to put the mink murderer out of business. Three, I wanted that judge to take his gavel and hit it and say, I cannot find this man guilty for giving enslaved beings a chance to be free. I was
Mhm.
successful on the first two. I missed the third one. One day, some judge somewhere is going to hit his gavel down and say, I cannot find these animal liberationists guilty for giving enslaved, tortured, exploited beings a chance to be free. Because that's all I did that day. And it was quite an experience because I lived the life of a caged animal. I told the
Yeah.
judge too this week, I said, you're going to put me in a cage. I already have empathy. My empathy will increase. And it did. When I found myself going insane in that little 6 foot by 12 foot cage, I would always say, I can't believe this is how they live. They never get out of this. I'm going to be okay. I'll be out in a few months. This is how they live. That elephant in that circus is in chains all the time. That monkey in that laboratory, this is how he lives. This is his whole life. So it just made me more determined. In fact, speaking of determined, there's something else that's funny. A bunch of things cross my mind once you get me talking. Watch out, man. So
Yeah.
somebody, one
Yeah.
of my haters once emailed me once and said, oh, you don't know more about animal rights than anyone else. You're not more important, blah, blah, blah. You're just more determined than anyone else. It's, is that an insult? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And I never claimed that I knew more if anybody was involved as I was. Yeah, it was. I was more determined than anyone else. That's why I did the things I did. And how is that an insult? We should all be that determined. And don't think
Yeah.
that Gary owns determination. I don't. Anyone could be
Mhm.
this determined. You just got to be willing to put it all on the line. Not be
Yeah.
afraid to give up your freedom. Not be afraid to give up your life, and you can accomplish the same thing.
I love that you said that. By the way, the audio's bad again, but your words were so beautiful. I didn't want to stop you, but let me just say this: like, I love that you bring up the word determination because I've thought that many times over the course of my activism, knowing that my adversary is against me, and I would tell myself, I just have to be more determined than them. They will give up, they will back down because I have felt like giving up and backing down. And I've known that I have to be more determined than that person. Another thing I'll say, that this speech, I can't wait to watch that on Joey's podcast, because that I've had the privilege now of working closely with Wayne Chung during trials. I was Wayne's paralegal during his Sonoma trial. And there was one moment during he was on trial for rescuing beagles. Day of the trial that we were going to go and argue for personhood for animals, they dropped charges, but we still had a hearing to go to. Nobody has seen this or heard this speech that Wayne gave before the judge, but it was so beautiful. It was spur of the moment. It was freestyle, like you're saying. He stared down a judge who again, and this was and we were so disappointed because this judge was, we thought, very good, very favorable, had sort of like a real civil rightsy kind of background. We thought this was going to be great, and I think his reaction to Wayne's talk kind of confirmed that, because he was very attentive when Wayne was speaking. And I just remember, I don't remember exactly everything that Wayne said. I just remember him staring down the assistant DA who was hunched over, kind of embarrassed, while Wayne pounded his fist into the table, saying, "This must stop." And it was so moving. And Wayne's brought me those moments during these trials too, that I've just been like, wow, we have people in this movement. And I go back to like Peter Young, who, when he was sentenced, he gave a similar speech like that. Like, I will not fucking apologize to you. I've been reading Will Potter's book about the Green Scare defendants, and how this one judge was trying to get all these defendants, and she was successful to get all these defendants to apologize and say, "I'm sorry for what I did." And two brave, I'm sad that I forgot their names for this, but two brave young defendants said, "Fuck off. We are not going to apologize," and paid the price for it and went to jail for longer. That's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you're right, Gary. You will be proven right. And you're already proven right. You were proven right in the moment, but history will see that as a defining moment. And it's too bad that we don't have it in the moment, but it's great that you get to reshare it on
You know
Joey's
what?
podcast.
I'm positive the courtroom has it on audio. I remember seeing a tape recorder there. I have tried desperately several times through Freedom of Information Act. I have had journalists who have supported me to try to get it. I've had attorneys try. They refuse to release the audio. I wish people could hear it, because that moment. I mean, I'm never going to reproduce that moment. I got close with Joey. I got close with certain friends that I said, "Man, you got to hear this shit." And I tried to do it again, but that moment, I was found guilty. And there were 25 mink farmers in the courtroom that day trying to intimidate me. I mean, it was. In fact, as they led me away in cuffs, I got two cops walking me down the aisle. I stop them both. And I had another 35 pounds on me back in the day. Used to be 207. I was tougher to handle back then. And I stopped both cops because there was the row with the mink murderers. And I turned to the side and I stared them down too for about 20 or 30 seconds. And they
Nice,
didn't know
nice.
what to do. And then the cops finally
Yeah,
took me
they
and pulled me along. But I mean, I would, man, I was something to see back then. I was like Bob Seger's song, "Like a Rock." I mean, it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
crazy the way I was back in the day. Um, I'm
yeah.
still crazy. I'm still
Yeah,
radical,
you're
but listen,
you're crazy.
I'm older. I'm older. I think Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption once said, "Older prisoners don't get rehabilitated; they get tired."
Mhm.
So I'm a little more tired these days. I
Yeah,
still go to jail for the animals. I don't want to as much. I'm kind of comfortable right now. I'd
yeah,
still give
yeah,
my life for them. I'm kind of comfortable, but back in the 90s, there was nothing they could do to stop me. Nothing whatsoever, man.
yeah.
And
I
Peter,
want to.
by the way, Peter Young, great fucking activist. A shout out to Wayne, great fucking activist. Shout out to all the warriors out there, the ALF, ELF warriors that are doing all the amazing work that needs to be done. And if people want to know my top two tactics, education based activism, number one, which is what I got into for the last part of my activism career, all those lectures. Second most important, direct action. freeing
Yeah.
animals, because those are the two quickest ways to liberate an animal: convince somebody to stop harming them, and then open up the cage. Now, be prepared though. Now, doing it my way, if it doesn't work, you're just gonna go on to the next class, the next person. If it doesn't work, direct action, you might end up in prison. Just be prepared to pay the consequences. It's
Right.
a tough endeavor to get into, but though anyone that puts their freedom on the line, their life on the line, deserves a huge round of applause.
Yeah. You talk about Michigan some, Detroit. Is that where you grew up? Did you grow up in like Detroit area?
Born and raised in Oak Park, Michigan, about 10 minutes from 8 Mile, the famous 8 Mile that Eminem raps about. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was gonna say, as you keep bringing up, like when you've brought up Detroit or Michigan, I'm thinking of like who are the luminaries of like Detroit. My mind directly goes to Eminem, and you think of Detroit as a very like gritty industrial city, the auto industry, all this kind of stuff, and I think I'm just positing a theory that some of your grit, your tenaciousness is just Detroit coming out. Would that be accurate?
What up, dope? That's a Detroit phrase, by the way. What up, dope?
I didn't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is all Detroit. And by the way, I do have a connection to Eminem.
Do you?
Before
Okay.
well, before the kid became a vegan activist, he wanted to be a rapper. 1992, I did a rap demo. You can go online, punch in my name, and punch in Declaration of Misrepresentation. I did an anti-racist rap, and the people that did my music, the Funky Bass team, Mark and Jeff Bass, they were the original people that did Eminem. So while they were choosing which white Detroit gritty rapper to go with, they made the right choice, by the way. Eminem's got me by a mile. I'm good, but I ain't
Eight
Eminem's
miles. Eight
Eminem's on
miles.
another level. They made the right choice going with Marshall. But just so everybody knows, I can still flow a little, got some bars going. I can tell by your etiquette, you delicate. Keep dancing around the subject. I'll connect a hit with a pirouette, send you flying from Schenectady all the way to Connecticut. Have you connected it yet? When you lean over to get a hit, don't let it get out of control, because I better get all three rounds by leaps and bounds. I'm the subject, the noun, the verb, and the predicate.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful, man. You know, I don't know if this is realistic or not, but I mean, have you ever tried to reach out to Eminem? Because I think for one, I've seen Eminem. I could be wrong. You get these veg news, things, plant-based news. Everybody's going vegan according to them,
Yeah.
right? But so I think Eminem had may have had a vegan restaurant, or at
Well,
least a. Go
he's
ahead, go
got
ahead.
vegan. He's got vegan options at his vegan restaurant.
Okay.
I think it's called Mom's Spaghetti from his famous song. There are vegan options now. You just brought it up. I no longer believe any list that I see about famous vegan celebrities. In fact, I mean, besides Joaquin, besides Woody, and besides Erica Badu, I don't fucking trust anybody anymore. Because every time I find
Yeah,
out someone's vegan, a year later I see him eating a steak sandwich, eating chicken
sure,
wings, or
yeah,
saying
yeah.
something. Now, the only vegans I really trust are the dead ones. So when I bring up famous vegans, it's like Pythagoras. I know he's still
Yeah, yeah.
vegan. George Bernard Shaw, Tolstoy. I got to go back in time. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
make sure that these are vegans. Go
Well, let
ahead.
me just say, I didn't think that Eminem was vegan. I know he's not
Yeah.
vegan, but he's based, and
Yeah.
I feel like he would respect you. And I'm just wondering, like, I know it's not that big a deal if a celebrity, but his platform, I just wonder if you could
No,
reach
it would
out
be
to him.
massive. I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
listen. I feel like if Eminem watched my speech, that he would become vegan. And imagine if Eminem went vegan, the bars that he could drop on meat
Oh
eaters.
my God.
I
Oh
would
my
love
God.
this. Now, for what it's worth, Veg News, it has been reporting that Dr. Dre's vegan. I don't know. I've never heard him say so. I know
Mm,
Snoop is vegan friendly, so maybe it's going on. Maybe he's listening. I don't know. But if he ever became vegan, holy shit, the things that he could do with this. And listen, it's not that I don't think it's important. So don't
mhm,
misconstrue when I
mhm.
say I won't use. I want to be accurate. And then if I used to say this person or that person was vegan, then I found out they weren't. But if Eminem went vegan, the influence is tremendous. If Beyonce's vegan friendly, and by the way,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
gets a lot of shit. I want people to know how open minded I am to what you just said about the influence with celebrities. This was 2017. I saw Beyonce on a morning talk show. It was after
Mm,
she had her baby, and she said, "Man, I went vegan for the last whatever year because I wanted to get my figure back. I wanted my skin to look good, and I love the vegan food, da da da, the plant-based food." And she was catching shit from the vegan community, and they were like, "Oh, how dare she say that?" And I said, "Hold on, guys. How many times do you turn on a talk show or just watch a TV show, a movie, and every time there's a horrible thing being said about veganism, they're mocking fucking animals, they're eating steak, and don't tell me that you're not like me. In your mind, I'm saying, why couldn't they say something nice about veganism? Why couldn't they be eating a veggie burger? Why couldn't they?"
mhm.
And here she is saying great things about veganism, and you guys are giving her shit because she's not really vegan, because she still has some other thing. I think she does have fur or something. Okay, well, she wasn't saying I'm the queen of the fucking vegan movement. She
Mhm,
was
mhm.
saying something nice. Do you know how many young girls listen to Beyonce that heard
Right,
her
right.
say, "You want a fit figure? You want good skin? Eat plant-based food. This is positive." So I was like the only radical vegan out there defending Beyonce.
Right, right,
People
right.
need to lighten up when a celebrity does say something nice. I like it. I want
Yeah,
them to
yeah.
be really vegan. Don't get me wrong. I want them to understand it, but I'll take positive things being said because it's always negative.
Yeah, well, more than turning Eminem vegan, which actually wasn't the point that I was going with. I just see like you're a famous guy from Detroit, he's a famous guy from Detroit. You're both rough and tumble. I feel like there's going to be a mutual respect. I just wonder if it's possible to even
Yeah.
get into I know he's a mega star, but is it possible to get the two of you chatting, to have a
Oh man,
conversation?
I don't know. I don't. Well, listen. So
Do
when
it,
so
do
in
it, do it.
2002, I don't know if people know this, but my first lecturing gig was PETA's official national lecturer. They paid me, covered my traveling expenses from '02 to '05. I was PETA's national lecturer. So we were putting something together, one of my speeches for a DVD to offer to the students. And I wanted to use an Eminem song. It was the one where he said the circus is coming to town, something like that. So
Right,
I
right.
reached out to Mark and Jeff Bass, who I still know. They're the ones that did my music, who know Eminem. And I said, "Oh my guy, can I have permission to use Eminem's song for this DVD we want?" And they said, "Of course, Gary. We still remember you, man. We still remember that 3-track demo when you came to our studio." They're
Nice.
like, "Yeah, definitely. Except good luck getting permission from everyone else who has a piece of the song. There's like 20 other
Right.
people." So I mean, there's a mild connection there with Mark and Jeff Bass. I don't know. I'd love to be able to sit down with them and shoot the shit and do what I'm doing now, just explain the
Yeah.
injustices. Because I always listen, I don't know if I'm going to be successful, but I always go into every situation thinking that I can convert anybody. Give me
Oh
a
yeah.
chance. I feel like I could get, well, just about anybody. I tried Ted Nugent several times. Ted Nugent is impenetrable. There's no way he's changing. I don't think Pierce Morgan is going to change either because he doesn't listen, but I love to get on Joe Rogan and Sam Harris. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
those, listen, give me somebody that's willing to listen. You can ask me whatever question as long as you let me answer. I feel like I could, I'm not saying I'm going to, but I feel like I could.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like I could convince. So I feel like I could reach Eminem.
I
Give me a
I
chance.
I I
Yeah.
absolutely do because I mean, for one, I've just seen, and not to just spend a billion years talking about Eminem, but I just think, he's been such a culturally important person. He did get real political that one time. Like he put out one song that was like a real anti-Trump song. He's like
Yeah.
someone who's kind of plugged in with his mind, but he still kept his connection to Detroit. And I think it's yeah, I just see like a golden opportunity, and it's somebody like you who could build a platform, like potentially, like you've done like 30 billion interviews since you came back to do the Sasha tour, so you're
Yeah.
talking all the time, and some of it maybe should go on a platform that you've created, which would grow because you got so many adoring fans, and I mean, and a lot of hate, which is also great because you get the hate, you get the drama, and people tune in for the drama.
Eminem's
So
got the hate too. It all comes with the
yeah,
territory, right?
yeah, it comes with the territory for
Obviously.
sure.
And by the
Yeah,
way,
but
Eminem to me is like he's like everyone else when it comes to this issue.
yeah,
Uninformed, misinformed, unaware about what's going on. And I think that if again, if I could just have a moment to explain it, I think he's a blocked vegan, like most people are.
I do
And
too. Yeah.
it sounds like he would be willing to listen. He has an open mind, so who knows?
Well,
And maybe we'll get together for a rap. Holy shit! I gotta
oh
really
my God,
fucking
it'd be
get buckled down
amazing.
and come up with some bars for that shit though.
Yeah, you might have to. Yeah, you might have to take that one pretty serious.
Or I
Yeah.
might have to have him write my section. I'm like, could you write my part for me, please?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Dr. Dre. We don't know if he's vegan, but why do you think it is that like there have been a ton of rappers who are at least plant-based and some who are actually like seemingly ethical vegans, which is
No,
pretty damn cool. And you don't see
there's
that
some.
in a lot of musical genres. So why is
I don't
that?
know that because they're real, man. I mean, you
Yeah.
hear real shit from rappers, especially a lot of the hardcore ones. Well, a couple of the guys from Wu-Tang Clan are
Yeah.
vegan. Shit, man, this goes back to KRS-One. I just listened to the song Beef yesterday for the first time in who knows how many years.
Yeah, yeah.
That was 1990. He dropped in the song just this is fresh for 1990. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
KRS-One was preaching this shit back in the day. There's a whole slew of rappers. The Dead Presidents. Be Healthy. That song. I don't eat no meat, no dairy, no sweets. Only ripe vegetables, fresh fruit, and whole wheat. I'm from the old school. My household smell like tofu, bro. Curry, falafel, barbecue, tofu. They had some great shit back in the day. There's a lot of great rappers doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that realness, that grit.
Yeah. Well, so, we didn't even talk about your mink liberation. I haven't like done a ton of research on you. I know you from your speech. I know you from a lot of the videos that you like, a lot of the interviews you did. I really liked the videos that you and Bite Size Vegan used to do back in the day. You guys put out some great videos. Another great activist, by the way, who I'd love to see. I know she's sort of flirted with a comeback at times, but it would be great to see Bite Size Vegan back
I
doing
thought
videos.
she was going to be at the London Veg camp out this week or next
That
week,
could
whenever
be. That
that's
could
going
be.
on. I know
Yeah.
Paul Bashir is an anonymous for the Voiceless. They're going to be a headline, and I thought Emily was there. Yeah, much love to Emily. She met me in Orlando for that interview series. I was giving lectures at University of Central Florida. That was a great round. In fact, she recorded me. Speaking of rap, I did my spoken word rap to her, which is online too. You can find it. I actually
Oh,
don't
cool.
even
Yeah.
remember most of that, but that's a pretty good thing. Punch in my name and punch in spoken word rap.
Hmm.
It was a rap about every horrible thing I saw online on video that helped me understand why animal exploitation was evil. And
Yeah.
there's a clean version without video, but Emily put together. She went and found all the images that I was rapping about. So be prepared if you're gonna find the gruesome one. It is going to be gruesome because I brought up cows getting ovariectomies without anesthetic,
Oh, wow.
which is
Yeah.
something I saw back in the 90s at the border. They didn't want animals to reproduce through the border, so they put these cows into a stall, take a fucking knife, cut their reach in their
Oh, you know
evil
what?
shit.
Maybe what you cut out again. Maybe it was too hot for YouTube or something.
Some Oh, I was saying, yeah, I know what weird spot that it cut out. I said so cows weren't allowed to reproduce if you brought them in from another country. So at the border, they would put them in a stall, take a knife, slice their backside, reach in with a bare hand and yank their ovaries. It was an ovariectomy without anesthetic. You want
Oh
to
my
talk
God.
about the evil things that humans are capable of? And my boy Thomas, that I just met from Ireland when I was in Cologne, he just did a speech where he said, I'm not doing him justice, but he said something to the effect of, for the animals that wanted to know man, but only knew inhumanity. It
Hmm.
makes me think of that, of all the good things and nice things we could be doing to animals, we choose to give them ovariectomies instead. We choose to cut off their horns, slice off their beaks. We choose to electro ejaculate the males to obtain their sperm. We choose to take that sperm and artificially impregnate, rape the female animals. We choose to steal their babies after birth. We choose not only to be animal killers, to be baby animal killers. We kill chickens at 6 weeks, pigs at 6 months, cows at 2.5 years. The evil and horrible and vile, vicious things that we choose to do instead of showing love and compassion, which is what the vegans are doing, which is why we promote veganism so much, which is why we want people to understand our message so much. I used to end my speeches, I think, with the phrase, "What's your excuse now?" Yeah, I still don't understand the excuses that people come up with. And why not make an excuse to care instead of making an excuse not to care?
Yeah, yeah. That's such a beautiful way, honestly. I was gonna ask you more about like the mink farms and stuff, but our signal is so bad right now. I can't even see you. And I'm wondering if maybe we should just like, I know you're doing a billion interviews right now, so now's not a great time, but maybe if we should come back another time and have another conversation, because I almost feel like the way that you just phrase that is just such a beautiful ending point for this interview,
Okay.
which I think has been such a great interview, honestly. I just want to say, Gary, it's been, you know, it's really great to have people in the movement who aren't afraid to say what's on their mind. We censor ourselves so much. I think that's a real harm that we're doing. Whether it's, some political issue or whatever, I just really appreciate that you say what's on your mind. And it's just, to me, it's really good for the movement. I know you got a lot of haters. I know that there are going to be people who say, why didn't you ask Gary about this, about that? Listen, I care about Gary because of what he stands for the animals. That's it. That's it. I don't care what Gary's politics are. And you know what? I'll say this too. I have watched a couple of the interviews that you've done during your sort of comeback tour. One of them was with Vegan Gains, who I like a lot. And I remember you talking about, and you brought it up, talking to the guys in rural North Carolina, and you brought up talking to the guys in Texas. I think it was that interview where you were talking about. I was talking to all these conservative guys, and I'm a liberal, just so you know. I'm a liberal. I left this guy, but you are reaching the conservatives more easy than you were reaching the people on the left. And there
Totally,
was just,
man. Listen, it because
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
real. Because to me, I think told Vegan Gains, the liberals gave me more of a tough time. They thought they were doing enough because they recycled or they drove a hybrid car. And they said, "Oh, Gary, and I have to be vegan, I have to care about cows." Yes. Yes, you have to. So they were tough. And that's not that I didn't reach the liberals, but they were tougher to reach to me than the
Hmm.
conservatives. Because at least the conservatives, when I came in the classroom, they were like, "Well, prove it. Prove your case to me." "Good, I want to. Thank you for giving me the chance." And when I finished, they say, "Holy shit, that was the best speech I've heard in my life." And I'm a Christian conservative Republican. I'm going vegan. If I could have lectured in Texas year round, and I'm not talking Austin, I never set foot in Austin, Texas. I was in Wichita Falls. I was in Denton. I was not in liberal parts of Texas. They were wonderful. They were open minded. They listen. I was in Corpus Christi, the body of Christ at Del Mar College. They gave me the biggest chances in the world, and I succeeded there. I love the conservative crowd way more than the leftist crowd who just and then they always thought they knew everything. It was a weird mentality. And I'm not saying that the conservatives don't act that way. Of course, that everyone acts that way at times. But the leftist, man, it was like, what? How could this be? I know everything about recycling and hybrid cars, and I know everything
Yeah,
about climate change. How could this be that? Well, guess what? You don't know everything, and that's why you're in school. By the way, I used to say
yeah.
to students who would challenge me sometimes in a negative way, it sounds like that you know everything already. So I have a question for you. Why are you here? And
Mm.
why aren't you up here where I'm at? Or why aren't you the professor if you know everything? You came here for a reason to learn. You ever think maybe somebody else knows a little more than you do about certain subjects? I didn't say I knew more about other subjects than you do. This I'm an expert on proper human animal relationships, how it should be. Listen to me talk about ethics between humans and animals. So, yeah, I loved them. and it shocks everybody. But man, those hunters in rural North Carolina, boy, they came up, shook my hands. I had slaughterhouse workers who used to work at the Smithfield Pig Factory Farms. They came up to me after a couple talks in North Carolina and said, Gary, that was a really great lecture. Honest, I came here to laugh at you, but that was the best talk I ever heard. I just want you to know the video footage you were showing, it's not accurate. Now, they weren't challenging me that it didn't happen. They said, it's worse than that. They say you
Mm,
showed a video of people cutting off the teeth of baby pigs, which is standard practice. Because you put them in a factory farm, they start biting each other. But if you take the teeth out, they can't damage each other's flesh. He goes, we don't cut their teeth out. We take a hammer and we knock the fucking teeth out. And I said,
mhm.
wait, what? He goes, yeah, we use a hammer. We don't cut their teeth. Not that either way is nice, but they were actually telling me what was actually going on in these places. So that's how open they were to the message because I presented it not like a politician. Because I
Right.
spoke the truth. In fact, I used to have to write on the board. If you look at the background of my speeches, it'll say, no, I'm not a Democrat. It'll say no. I was like, I got tired of everyone. Every time I walked in the room, oh, this fucking liberal douchebag. Oh, here comes the fucking guy. Oh, whatever. And I had to, or I think it also said on the board, no, my shoes aren't leather. I noticed people would be looking at my shoes early on during my lecture tour. I'm like, do these
Yeah.
fuckers think I'm wearing cow skin shoes? So I had to put that on the board. But I also, I got you. I can't tell you how many conservative students went to leave once I put stuff on the board, but then they saw that it said, no, I'm not a Democrat. And they told me after the lecture, like, man, I was going to leave. I thought you were another left wing douchebag. But my God, when you said I'm not a Democrat, I wanted to hear this guy. And I want people to know, the only book I have ever read about animal rights, I didn't read my first book until 2004, 8 years after I went vegan. Dominion by Matthew Scully, who used to be George W. Bush's senior speechwriter. I wanted to hear what a Christian conservative Republican had to say, and it was the best. I mean, I can't compare it, but I loved the book. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was fantastic. Now, I've skimmed a lot of books. Don't act like Gary. I just can't read
Mhm.
an entire book. I'm completely ADHD.
I
But that
see. I
was the
see.
only book I read from front to back and didn't miss one word.
Yeah.
But
Well,
so don't leave the conservatives out. To everybody out there, stop thinking the conservatives won't listen. Just make your
well,
case.
well, listen, I mean, what it really boils down to, I think you've sort of said it twice, was one, you're real, and people appreciate when you're real. And you also talked about the camo, and you said, like, when that guy was like, hey, welcome to North Carolina, they wear camo here. And you didn't worry about that, and you didn't treat them different because and people were expecting you to. They expected you to look down on them or do this thing. And look, you look down on everybody equally. You look down on it, or you look, but what you really did, and I said this earlier in our conversation, was you respected them by giving them the facts, and they saw that. And we have to do that for the liberals too. And so I don't want to paint the liberals with a broad brush. It's just that we've got this perception in the vegan movement that it's all leftists, that it's all liberals. I'm a leftist, I'm a liberal, but I appreciate a firm tone. Just give me the facts. I don't care. Don't sugarcoat it, And so I think we have to be careful that we don't do that with liberals, like paint them as some, like, pussies that can't handle the truth, because
Right.
that's not the case either. However, we have to, like, change this mentality in our movement, um, and just have people, like, stop censoring themselves and say what you mean to say. Uh, I guess that was me on my little
No, listen,
soapbox
and
there.
here I'll just let me dare I say piggyback onto that.
Mm,
Nobody gets this, so stop thinking only a liberal will get it and a conservative won't. Nobody gets this fucking message. 2% of the human population is vegan. That's 98% of people, Republican and Democrat, black and white, straight and gay. They don't get men and women. They don't. Nobody gets it. So don't exclude anybody from preaching. Was my point. I wasn't gonna say, oh, the conservatives aren't gonna get it. I want to see how this crowd. And you know what? Wow, man, they gave me a chance, just like most people gave me a chance. So there's a lot of people that think, oh, I'm not gonna go to rural North Carolina, rural Ohio. Why? Why not? In fact, you know what I heard also? I'm going to wrap this up because you want to wrap this up. We got a bad connection. I started asking the professors in North Carolina. I went there for 8, 9 years straight. And I'd say, man, how come these students are so wonderful to me? All the professors, and I had about a dozen at that time, said to me, none of these students can believe that you would actually come to Beaufort Community College, Halifax Community College, that you would come to this tiny city near East Carolina University and speak to them. Nobody comes and gives a guest lecture here. They are so thankful that somebody of your caliber that could be speaking at Harvard or Yale or Penn State or University of Michigan, wherever else, that you would come here. So they try to hit those small towns. They're appreciative that somebody would come and talk to them.
Yeah, well, they have a term for that. It's called flyover country. And it's like a
Uh,
political term where they're talking about places where, the politicians don't go because they're not interested. And I'll tell you, I don't want to get political. I really don't. But I do think this is an interesting time to point out that, we just had a couple of elections where, the Trump won. And I will say, like, as someone who lived in North Carolina during these times, uh, what the Democrats were failing to do was to hit flyover country. And that's what Trump was doing.
right.
Trump made it out to Western North Carolina. Hillary did not. Western North Carolina, where the mountains are, where the rural communities are, didn't even bother hitting Asheville, where I was living.
Mhm.
A liberal town, but like, you can't just hit all the cities, and that it goes that way for activism as well. Like we can't just assume. And Wayne will tell you this too. He will say he's had the most success in rural Utah in his trial, where they got acquitted for their Smithfield rescue. Yeah, we can't write these places off. We do ourselves a huge detriment by doing that, which goes to show, if you are a vegan, and I know a lot of vegans like this who live in some kind of, like, conservative, really conservative town, they're afraid to put a bumper sticker that says vegan on it on their car. Do it. Uh, you just don't understand. This is People respect when you're real, when you're open, and you talk about it. In fact, a lot of these conservatives that we're talking about really respect if you come up to them and say, I'm a fucking liberal. Deal with it. They'll respect that. Okay. So
Do you
that's me
know?
on my, yeah, go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
listen, a couple months ago, I was told this is when I was still retired. Somebody told me Ben Shapiro, I guess, is a massive Republican conservative
Hmm.
commentator. He shared a clip of my famous interview with that Israeli woman and gave it a thumbs up. And he's got
Wow.
like 7 or 8 million followers. Because again, the way I preached, it was beyond all political borders.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
for everybody. This is for religious people and atheists. This is for everybody needs to hear this message. I didn't exclude anybody and hear it straight from me. The guy that converted hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. Don't leave the conservatives out. This
Yeah.
everybody can get it. Stop thinking that only a certain group is going to understand it. It's not true. I'm the one that's got empirical evidence. I spoke to 60,000 students face to face. I don't think any other vegan on this planet spoke to 60,000 meat, dairy, and egg eaters face to face. Listen to me. They are just as good, if not better, than the crowds you think are going to be listening. Hit those
Yeah.
conservatives. Just be firm, just be truthful, and just state the case. They will
State the
listen.
case. Exactly. Well, Gary, I was gonna wrap, but the audio's okay. How
Oh,
much time do you have a little more time?
I don't know what time it is actually. What are we
I
doing
think
it
we've
for?
been going close to 2 hours, but
Oh,
if you do have a little more time, I would ask you about the main stuff. But ask the person with you if you got the time, and
give
we
me
could always
about.
do
You
it
know what?
another
I'm
time.
starting to fade now. This is the point where I'm not as sharp. let's just do the mink liberation, wrap it up after that. But I promise you, let's do this again. If you got more questions you didn't get to ask, I don't mind. We'll set up something for a couple more months down the road. I'd love to do a repeat, man, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds great. And thank you so much for being so given of your time. And yeah, I really do recommend that you should start a podcast or something, or do something where it's great that you're appearing on everybody's shows, but you could build up that platform of yours
Well,
and get Marshall Mathers as your guest. I
it's
really do
weird.
mean
So
it.
I really enjoy being interviewed. I don't know if I want to interview others,
Right.
but I'm following Carmen's lead. She knows what she's doing. She's the community manager.
All
Right
right.
now, listen, I'm going to go over all these 30 podcasts. Carmen and I are going to do this soon, and we're going to be grabbing snippets and sound bites as I get online. We just signed up to TikTok the other day. I'm already
Yep.
on Instagram. We're going to be getting on all the media networks. I'm going to start sharing all the cool clips we have a lot of content to share. Put it that way.
Well, please do. And anything of mine is yours. I consider these, mutual projects. So that you have free reign to use anything that we've done here. So yeah, let's talk about let's talk about the mink liberation before we let you go. And I just want to ask sort of the question that that guy in jail, in prison, was saying. Why did you come to Canada to do this? And so since you're an American, you were in Canada. I don't actually know the story of all that stuff. And so how did you end up in Canada to do a mink liberation?
Okay, interesting stuff. First of all, Canada is Windsor is literally 20 minutes from where I was in the suburbs right outside of Detroit. It's a hop, skip, and a jump away. Now, there
Right.
were five of us that got involved in this. Hilma Ruby, who doesn't get enough credit for everything that went down, because Hilma and me were the only ones that did not apologize, that stood up for the animals, that stood up to the judge and the whole system. The other three people made deals to save their own asses, cooperated, apologized, cried, all that fucking weak shit. So Hilma was actually a veteran activist at that time. I was only 1 year into my veganism. I was a soldier. I was a private. So
Mhm.
Hilma actually put this together. So she knew where this place was because she had been there before. We were looking for places in Michigan and we just couldn't locate them. Keep in mind, most places of animal torture are located in rural areas. And if you don't know the layout of all these dirt roads, man, it's hard to find it. So we went to seek out 3 or 4 places of torture and just couldn't find them. And then Hilma says, well, I know across the border where there's one. So we chose that one to hit. So Hilma puts this together. The only thing that I offered at that time was all five of us had to drive separately to meet at the location the night we were going to do it. So nobody could claim that they were coerced into doing it. Now, wouldn't you know, during the trial later on, I'm going to jump ahead. Everybody, all the other three people claimed they were coerced into doing it. I'm like, this is why we drove separately, so nobody could say this. But boy, listen, if you're not ready to face the consequences, don't do direct action. And after this, I learned a valuable lesson. I actually started doing things by myself,
Mm.
or I only trusted one other person, Laura Rogers, at that time was my right hand woman. We did a few things together, but I was so leery of working with other people because Robin was my best activist friend at the time. She was the first one to give a statement to the court and the first one to get released on bail. Alan was my uncle, for crying out loud, who was the only family member that ever listened to me when I talked about animal rights. He never became vegan, but he always watched the videos with his family. They cried about it, but they were hypocrites like most people. But he always told me, if you want to free animals, I'm down for that. He took the stand during my trial and said Gary opened up all the cages, because Alan and I actually got away that night when it went badly. We got apprehended an hour away in a taxi cab. So to save his ass, he pointed at me, and he got the deal, and he walked away. And my uncle stood there and said, Gary did this. And Pat actually agreed to cooperate, but they didn't need her because Robin gave the statement already and explained everything, and then Alan pointed the finger at me. But it was quite a fantastical evening that night. A few things that I remember when I was opening up the cages. I had a friend beforehand tell me, be careful, Gary, the mink are carnivores and they're going to attack you. I remember bringing up that sixth sense that we talked about earlier. I said, no, no, no. They're going to know why I'm there. And I'm not wearing extra protective gear thinking that they're going to attack me. As I opened up cage after cage, and I was the cage opener, one mink dove out and landed on my chest. And I remember leaning back like this. And as I looked up, she was on my chest on her hind legs and she was tilting her head. You know, how animals do that. She was checking me out. And then she jumped off my chest. And I remember her thinking, why? You're the good guy. You're the one who opened up the cages. You're not the murderer. And I remember a symphony of screams, freedom screams. They were so happy to be out of these cages. And I remember saying, go, guys, go, go, run, run, go. Alan and Robin had the job of cutting holes in the perimeter fence. Hilma was spray painting ALF stuff all over the sheds. Pat was the getaway driver. And when Robin and Alan finished cutting holes in the fence, they were supposed to come help me. Well, I found out later Alan got scared, ran across the street. Robin did come with me. We were in the fifth shed. We were just finishing up, and I thought it was going wonderfully. And all of a sudden, I saw headlights outside of the shed. And I said, Robin, hang on a second. Something's not right. And I went and I peeked out and I saw two cars on the street, one facing one way, one the other, like they were talking to each other. And I thought, man, these look like cop cars. This isn't good. This isn't good. And all of a sudden, I heard in the background, hey, motherfucker, stop right there. And I grabbed Robin by the shoulder and I start running. And I follow me, follow me. And we ran. And I thought she was behind me. I dove over the perimeter fence like I was an acrobat, by the way. And I'm not, but adrenaline is great. I dove,
Mm.
it, didn't miss a beat, stood up and ran across the street. All of a sudden, there's no Robin. I found out later she froze. She got scared. They apprehended her on the property. I'm across the street in the field. I'm about 50, maybe 100 feet in, and there's a huge 600-acre forest, and the grass was, man, it was 6, 8, 10 feet tall, so you definitely couldn't see in there clearly. And I heard something happening, and something told me it was Alan, and I'm like, Alan, Gary. So Alan was hiding already across the street. Now all of a sudden, I don't know, 8, 7, 8, 9 cop cars show up. And they got the headlights out. They're looking in the field. All of a sudden, I hear the dogs. They brought out the canines, the sniffing unit, and they're looking for us. We got to get out of here. So on our bellies, like we were soldiers, we crawled 1 or 2 miles back to town, and we got to a convenience store. It was a small town, Blenheim, Ontario, and I asked the clerk to call us a taxi. He did. I begged the taxi driver to take us to the Windsor Casino. I said, I'm a VIP. I will give you $500 if you get us to the Windsor Casino. I don't have any money right now. And he agreed. And we didn't know how small the town was at the time because there was only one taxi. And when the cops finally got back to town asking questions, they went to the convenience store and they said, anything weird happened tonight? He said, yeah, a couple of guys came in about 3:30 in the morning begging for a taxi. Well, they ended up calling the taxi driver. I remember the guy was on the phone. I thought he was talking to his girlfriend or something, or his wife, because all he was whispering and all he said was yes and no. Well, we later found out in court they were asking him yes and no questions. Are you afraid? No. Are they armed? No. Are you on the 401 highway? Yes. Okay, we're coming up shortly, da da. And it was 45 minutes or an hour later, and all of a sudden the headlights went on, the sirens went on, and my heart, like we thought we got away. We're like, oh no, they got us. By the way, the
Good.
cops and the correctional officers are super nice in Canada, and they do serve you vegan food in prison in Canada. So my
Mm.
advice too to anybody thinking of direct action, do it in Canada. They're super nice to you. But so the 1,542 mink got a chance at freedom that night. The only reason that we couldn't pick them up and take them across the street, well, I can't pick up 1,542 animals and take them to safety, but I could give them a chance at freedom, which is the same chance everybody would want if they were in the situation that there was no way out of. They were going
Right.
to have their necks broken no matter what. 540 mink did escape that night, though. They found the holes in the perimeter fence. Unfortunately, 1,000 never made it off the grounds. They were recaptured and killed. But again, they got that chance at freedom. and it was quite an experience, man. Again, it put me on the map. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to talk to me about it. This is how I got into the classrooms. This is how I was able to put a dent in the world and make all these people vegan, all these hundreds of thousands of people. It all started with that mink liberation, and I don't regret it one bit. And I got to live the life of the caged animal, as we talked about earlier. And
Yeah.
it was a whirlwind of an experience, man.
I don't know if you can quantify, days of your life, but it sounds to me like that had to be up there among like one of the most significant, if not like best nights of your life. Would you call it that yourself?
Without a doubt. I mean, it was at a time when I was raring to go. I was as radical as I had ever been. And I just knew I wanted to do more than just talk about what they were going through. I wanted to liberate an animal. I wanted to give animals who were doomed a chance to be free. And it was a magical evening. A lot of it a lot of it is hard to remember because it was such a crazy experience. I told this story to somebody in Frankfurt a couple of months ago, Kiana Rosenfeld, who's the son of Nir Rosenfeld, who I converted years ago, who has 7 vegan restaurants in Frankfurt. And I told
Nice.
him some other stories too, and he said, "Man, your whole life sounds like a Quentin Tarantino movie." And if you think about it, some of like the Jerry Velasquez story, it does sound that way, and it was that way. Even when I look back, I'm like, wow, it was such crazy times and amazing things that I decided to get involved in. But that big liberation, it could be the most significant moment that I ever did in my activism. I mean, it's what started everything. It was literal liberation time for these animals. It put me on the map. It allowed me to do everything else. Absolutely. And it allowed me to
Yeah.
experience the life of a caged animal. I was sentenced to jail. And it allowed me to understand real activists from phony activists, from people who were going to stand up for what they believed in, and people who obviously just broke down and couldn't take it and didn't really believe in the liberation that we were offering the animals that night. But and Robin, I gotta say, Robin breaks my heart because she was hardcore too. She had been vegan for about, I think, 10 or 12 years at that time. I can't believe that she broke down, and she broke down because her family threatened to disown her, and her family was wealthy, so she chose money over her belief system. And by the way, isn't that why the animals are suffering right now? Because of money.
Right.
Why any oppressed being has truly ever suffered? Because of money. I don't know how she chose money over a belief system, over ethics, over giving somebody a chance not to be murdered. I would never make that decision. And yeah, I didn't. And so this was weird. Robin was so hardcore when we first got apprehended. Now we're in a 10 day bail hearing. It was the 10th day. And by the way, a 10-day bail hearing for freeing animals. I mean, a fucking child molester, a rapist, a murderer doesn't have a 10-day bail hearing. They didn't want us to get bailed out because they thought we were going to go back to America, and there's no MIC extradition, so they weren't going to get us to come back to Canada for this. But on day 10, my attorney, Steve Rogan, tells me as they took a recess, Robin's in there giving a statement right now, and she's walking. I said, don't you dare say that about Robin. That is that is my best animal rights friend. Take that back right now. He said, Gary, I'm just telling you, she's in. I said, I mean, I cussed him out. I told him to shut the fuck up. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. Whatever she's doing, she's not cooperating. Well, they take us back finally about a half hour later to hear the court case. There's four of us now. There's no Robin. We're in the defendant box. And all of a sudden I start thinking, no way, no way. 10 minutes later, Robin walks in the courtroom, head down. Her head is down. She gets to the defendant box, and I'm trying to look at her. She's got her head down as she walks, and she's got to sit next to me and pass me. And I'm trying to look at her, and she won't look. Her head is down. And it hit me. I'm like, oh my God. And she sits down next to me. I'm staring at her. She won't look at me. I'm just shaking my head. I can't believe this. And then the judge comes in, and what does he do? He reads the statement. Robin Wiener just told us this, that Pat drove the car, that Hilma spray painted ALF, that Gary opened up the cages. Um, Be careful who you work with, people. Now, I've forgiven Robin over the years, and I forgave Alan because I realized that had to happen. I wasn't supposed to get away that night. I believe in the universe and how things work and things happen for a reason. And I'm telling you, Robin had to be that week. Alan had to be that week. If Gary doesn't go to jail, the news doesn't call, the media doesn't call, the teachers don't call, professors don't call. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, everything that was supposed to happen never happened. So I forgave them. I still don't understand it. And we all talked, I mean, during the meetings we had before the liberation, we all agreed. Are we really, is everyone here willing to give up their freedom if it goes badly? We all said yes. Is everyone, we also agreed that whoever got away that night is going to get away and the other people have to suffer the consequences. So what happens, of course, I get away and everybody want to bring me back. Like, I thought we agreed whoever gets away. And we were gonna give up our freedom. And all of a sudden, nobody wants to give up their freedom anymore except Hilma and me. We stood true. We didn't apologize. We didn't cry. So much love to Hilma Ruby. We lost touch over the years. I hate that. Shit happens, life happens. But Hilma was a warrior. She was somebody I looked up to when I began. She had been vegan for a long time, maybe 10, 20 years already at that time. Hilma doesn't get enough love and respect for arranging that mink liberation that helped put me on the map. So much love to Hilma Ruby.
Well, that's an incredible story, and I can't help but feel kind of depressed how similar it sounded to the one. So I had Peter Young on the channel pretty recently, and we were having the same discussion about the people who turn on you. He unfortunately had someone turn on him as well, and he expressed something very similar to what you just said about your friends, where there was an attorney saying to him, listen, in the case that your co-defendant informs on you, and he stopped him, he said, will not happen, and would not entertain that discussion. Sure enough, his co-defendant turned on him, turned snitch, and the rest is history. But kind of similar to you, that put him on the map. So these things kind of were meant to happen. But the depressing takeaway from this is, like you've already expressed, be careful who you work with. And what you described doing is something that I asked Peter, did you guys have this sort of like prearranged agreement that you guys wouldn't that you understood the risk and that you were ready for this? It sounds like you guys even discussed it. You may, but even that
We
wasn't
went
enough.
over every scenario we had to, and it was important. And if you're going to do this, go over the scenarios. But
Yeah. But
this is more of a condemnation on human beings in general. Human beings let you down.
yeah,
Family
yeah,
members let you down. Friends let you down. Don't put blind faith into anybody and everybody. Be selective. And even then, you can still get burnt. It's
yeah,
just tough.
because I'm sure that some of your buddies would have thought I wouldn't do that. But then, with a phrase that Peter used, when it's stress tested, you never know. You never know. But hats off to you for not doing that. And I think that that shows some true character. I mean, and I knew this was going to be a nice conversation. I knew I was going to like you because I've liked everything just about that I've seen you do. Um, and but I mean, this conversation, my respect for you just goes through the roof, Gary. I mean, like I said, I didn't know too much. I didn't do a whole ton of research about you on purpose, by the way, because I knew you from your speech. I knew you from your vids. I'm like, I know how this guy speaks about animals, but I actually didn't know all the story. I knew about the mink liberation, but I didn't know the story of it. And I wanted to hear it from you, and it's beautiful. And so my heart goes out to you. Like everybody who has been, put themselves on the line for animals, just occupies such a high space in my book. And so welcome back to the movement is what I'm saying, Gary. And I know you never left really because you were still doing all that work with the sanctuary, but welcome back to the public spotlight. I hope it's been good for you. I know there's been couple of controversies, but that's, honestly, it's good, right? It's good. So
I'm on
uh
top of the world, man. I'm glad to
yeah,
be alive again. And the word activist, the word active is so sacred to me, even though I was doing stuff with Sasha Farm while I was retired for about 10, 11 years, even though I was helping some skunks in my neighborhood that were getting murdered, and I was saving butterflies and caterpillars. I didn't consider that to be active because of the level of activism that I was involved in. So I'm glad to be active again. I want to get vegans to be active. And let me say this, I was listening to a Pink Floyd song this morning, and there was a line in there that I wanted to share today. I'm glad I just remembered it. Um, did you exchange a walk-on part in the war for a lead role in a cage? Speak up, speak out, vegans. Okay, don't rely on just a select few to do this. If you understand this message, it is time to speak up and speak out and become active and do whatever you can. So I'm happy now to be back and encouraging all the Gary vegans around the world to become Gary vegan activists. I want to reach out to the carnivores again. I'm going to get on social media with Carmen Conesa. I am now a two-person army. It's Carmen and me. We're going to take on the world, and we're going to do some amazing shit online. I want to do so many things, and it's going to be fantastic. Gary 2.0. I'm going to make some major changes again. I did it once, and I'm going to do it again. Be prepared for what's about to happen online. It's going to be some good
Well,
shit.
I'm glad you shout out Carmen too, because there's a lot of people in this movement who don't get credit for the things that they do. So thank you, Carmen, for making this. I'm sure she's making it a lot easier for you, Gary, and it's a huge help.
I don't know
So
shit about online. I don't know shit about technology. I needed her so badly in so many ways, and she's helping me
hey,
out because all I know how to do is preach. Put the camera on me and tell me when to talk, and I'll start talking. But other than that, I don't know how to record. Before Carmen joined me, she just started with me this week. Paul Bashir and Oliver Luz in Cologne, they signed me up
mm,
to Instagram, and then they had to put everything online for me. I'm like, "Let's now what?" They're like, "Download, save this, press this, do that, put these hashtags." I'm like, "What the fuck? Why can't I just press one button and have it go?" You got to do like 15 things to get it online, and I don't understand. Remember, I'm 55. I was around before cell phones. I was around before the internet. All this shit doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. So
it's
yeah,
funny
Carmen's
because
been fantastic.
somehow I didn't know Oliver Luz until today, literally today, when I was live and someone recommended a video where he quite beautifully, by the way, he was doing an AV Cube outreach, had three guys around him, and he had one guy in his crosshairs because that guy was like admitting this is wrong, and he was just like, but I'm not strong enough to do it. And this other punk ass was trying to talk to him. He just completely ignored
I saw
him.
that.
Such a great,
By the
so
way,
great.
shout out Oliver. Oliver's one of the baddest fucking activists I have ever met, man. I got to witness him in Cologne. I was there for 31 days. Oliver is a fucking soldier. He's a machine. I met so many great people with Anonymous for the Voiceless, and Thomas was a kick-ass activist from Ireland. Go to my Instagram account, by the way. I shared a speech that Thomas gave. He had me teary-eyed, teary-eyed. It was fucking amazing. But AV is loaded with an amazing group of activists right now, and they're changing the world right now too.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we'll put all those links down below. Link to your Instagram or link to Sasha Farms. It's on the screen right now. But if you're just listening, again, that's sashafarm.org where you can donate. And Gary, it's been such a pleasure, man. Great to meet you, by the way.
It's great to
Never
meet you
had a
too, and I want to do
conversation.
this again. So a couple more months, we're gonna get back together. Come up with a new round of questions, and we will
Sounds
do this, man.
sounds good. You just keep in mind whatever it is you didn't get asked in the 80,000 interviews you do in the meantime, all right? Because I don't know what to ask. So just keep those here's my challenge to you, Gary. Just keep one special story for me. That's all I ask. Just
I
one.
got a
Doesn't have
ton,
to be
by
the
the way.
best one.
I
Okay, good.
have so many stories. Part of me wants to go on tour and just tell fucking war stories. You won't believe the fucking stories I got from the shit back in the 90s, man. So I'll save a few, man. I'll save a few, and if
Okay,
not, I'll
sounds
come up with
great.
some new ones.
Okay, so yeah, just make some shit up for
No, no. I
it.
mean,
We won't know the
I have to
difference.
just dig
No,
deep, and
I'm just
this
playing.
crazy. There's so much shit in there. I'm like, wait a second. What? Oh, I remember that. Hold on.
Yeah. Just like get in your brain and rearrange some things around. Something
Yeah.
will come up that you didn't think
Or if I
about.
have some new ideas, I'll save a new thing that I come up with for you.
Yeah,
Like you were the
absolutely. And
first
by the
one to get the
way,
Pink Floyd. You were the first one to get the Pink Floyd lyric today.
yes, and the Jerry story, I'm sure nobody else. And by the way, reach out to Jerry. He loves you. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
Tell
stay in
that
touch
man
every once
hello.
in a while. All
Sounds great. All right,
right. Peace
take
out,
care,
Jay.
Gary. It's been real.
All right. Take care, man. Bye bye.